Hello and welcome to Decoding Attachment Style, where we are going to be looking for some of the signs of a healthy attachment with an anxious or an avoidant attached partner. Now, we know that an anxious or an avoidant attached partner can create a healthy and lasting connection. You've asked this question, you've wanted to know, is it possible? And the short answer is yes, but it needs some ingredients, some special ingredients. So if you've ever felt like your attachment styles are clashing, this is the podcast for you. And as I often say, it's always so necessary to take notes if you want to progress on your healing journey, if you want to understand something, like when you're going to school, you take notes so that you could go back and revise in times when you've forgotten. Note taking is so incredibly important when we want to grow. And it does not matter if it's a class you're taking, a degree program, or if you want to heal your attachment style, heal your childhood wounds. Taking notes is so incredibly important. The good news is, just in case you can't, this podcast is going to be up here, so you could always listen to it at a later date. All right, so I'm going to share a little bit about myself and how I've dealt with my anxious attachment style and how I've been able to heal and move more into a secure attached relationship. You see, as someone who has had more of an anxious attachment, I thought that I had to control what happened, when and where in my relationships. I thought that if I didn't plan the things to do together, the relationship would slowly fall apart. I thought that I had to let them know how much I cared about them so that they would know I was different from the other people that they had dated before. And perhaps I am certain that I believed that if I could prove to them that I would never leave, they would try harder. But what happened was, I was walking on eggshells and I was glued to a tightrope, and I made them feel exactly the same way without realizing this. Now, how do I know that? Because I'm now in a place where I can look into past relationships, pull myself out of my body and kind of look at it from a bird's eye view of who I was, the way I communicated, the passive aggressiveness, the way I communicated. I'm talking about tone and sometimes not getting my message clearly across. A lot of times the passive aggressiveness comes because we've tried and tried and tried. Now we've built up resentment, and now we expect them to know exactly why we're upset, right? And it is impossible for another human being to know what we're thinking and what we're feeling. We collect all of these negative thoughts and feelings, and we let them fester. And before we know it, we have an attitude. We're acting passive aggressively. We're making snide remarks. And we expect the other person to know exactly why we're doing it. And what happens is now they feel as though they're walking on eggshells. They feel as though, regardless of what they say or how they say it, it's going to be received with judgment and criticism. And this leads me to talk about why open and honest communication matters. You see, we're told that healthy relationships thrive on transparency. What I've learned is that our partner does not need to know exactly what we're thinking. They don't need to know if we're thinking, oh my gosh, this person is such an idiot, they don't get it. That is not something that they want to know. Why? Because when we judge or criticize them, of course they're going to feel crappy about themselves. Of course they're going to pull away. Of course they won't want anything to do with us because we're making them feel horrible about themselves. So we want to start filtering exactly what we're saying to people. I mean, we don't go out on the street. I hope we don't go out on the street. And if you see someone and you don't appreciate the way they dress, you shout and tell them, right? You learn to keep things to yourself. And it's so important that we do that, especially in the relationships we care about. People don't need to know exactly what we're thinking about them. I've said this many times. When a relationship is not working, the best thing to do is just accept that and try to walk away, as hard as that is. But if we're staying with that person and saying things that are mean and expecting them to be loving towards us, then we're setting ourselves up for a disappointment, because it's just not going to happen. We also don't want to know everything that they're thinking. Trust me on this one. We do not want to know everything a person's thinking about us or the relationship. Ever heard of a partner that says something, might have said something about you, or you might have had a friend that came over and said their partner said something that was really devastating? There are times when we would also appreciate it when our partners think about what they want to say before they say it. We've all been in relationships where a partner said something we thought was insensitive. So we don't want to constantly ask them, what are you thinking? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to say? Because if they actually do, we may not like it. I learned that asking what someone thinks is like peeking into a person's diary and then getting upset if they don't want to share. And this happens a lot, where we ask a partner, hey, what are you thinking? Why aren't you sharing with me? Why aren't you talking to me? And then we get really upset if they don't share that, instead of respecting that, okay, they probably just don't want to talk about it, and that's all right. So we want to look at how controlling we can be in relationships and work on that part of our healing. Now let's talk a little bit about boundaries, the what and the hows of it. Okay, I've got a confession. I have to admit that in the past, I have broken into an ex's phone and I've gone through their text messages. And no, it is not okay. Because not only was I disrespecting their boundary, I didn't have one of my own. I was not healed enough. When we have an anxious or an avoidant attachment style, which is really an insecure attachment style, we will get scared that the person that we love and the person that we're investing in might not really want to stay with us. They may just want to leave. And so we get insecure. We go through their phones. We go through their emails. We are constantly looking over their shoulder. We're looking over our shoulder. We're peeking at everything they do, reading too much into everything they do. However, breaking boundaries is a sure way that someone would feel unsafe and they would want to leave, because what we're doing is putting them to walk on eggshells. They're not sure if they should leave their phone. They're not sure how many times they should change the passcode on their phone. And there are a lot of times, people will just share stuff with a friend or a relative about their relationship. Maybe they're working through stuff and they don't mean to leave you because of it, but they just want to share. And we know that, we go to other people and we share our stories with them. We talk to our friends about our relationships. And if we could pull ourselves back, you'll see that you don't want your partner to be a fly on the wall listening to everything you say about them, right? Am I correct? If I am correct, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to send me an email. Let me know how these podcasts have been able to help you to build some more awareness and how you've been able to control the way you respond and you react after listening to these tidbits. Now, what I had to do was I had to focus on what I brought to the relationship. And I had to fall in love with who I am by seeing who I am. I had to fall in love with me by seeing who I am. And this was so that I would not second guess that my partner would want to be with me. You see, if I could see that I'm an amazing person, that I'm good in the relationship, that I'm honest and I'm compassionate and I'm respectful and I'm kind and all of these good, fun stuff, then of course I would know that he would want to be with me. Of course I wouldn't feel insecure. I'm not going to be looking over my shoulder wondering if somebody else is going to come into the relationship, because even if they do and they manage to take him away from me, eventually you'll know a few things when you really know yourself. They will miss you. They will reflect upon the relationship. They are going to have regrets. But you have to know that about yourself. And even if they don't, you still know that if you are this incredible person and they do leave you, then this is not something that you want to take personally. This is their trauma to work through, their healing their past wounds that need to be worked through. Not because someone leaves, it means that you've done something. And yes, it doesn't mean that we don't pull ourselves back and take responsibility as well. One of the ways that I've been able to grow is by looking at past relationships and really taking account of how I showed up in those relationships. And it wasn't pretty. I was not perfect. I was very, very, very far from perfect in relationships. I caused hurt and pain to other people, thinking that I was the better partner, just because I was reading all the self-help books and studying psychology and thinking that, I was practicing. I was involved in my spiritual practices and meditation and lighting of incense and practice in Buddhism and all of it. And I thought I was the perfect partner. And now, reflecting upon it, I could see, admit, accept, and be and feel remorse for the pain that I've caused other people. And that's the only way that we can grow, by looking at who we were, who we are, and saying, you know what? This is not working. I remember someone said to me, they just said something simple as, you're not perfect either. And I stopped. In the past, I would have reacted. I would have been defensive. But what I did was I stopped, and I think it was probably the first time I said, you're right. I'm not a peach. I've got a lot of work to do on myself. And so it is so important to be humble, less defensive, right? Now, this brings us to attunement. What is that? I thought I understood my partner's needs, but what I was really doing was projecting what I needed onto them. I had to learn to be attuned, meaning knowing that their needs are different from mine, and I had to respect that. They were not me. They did not want the same things I wanted. They did not need the same things I wanted. I might have thought that a slice of cake was absolutely perfect and the best thing I've ever tasted. But for them, it was something they were allergic to. And what I was doing was trying to force what I thought was amazing and great onto someone who knew for themselves that this was not the right thing for them. I was trying to push my opinions on them. I was trying to control what they did because I thought I was up on my high and mighty horse thinking that I was better. I knew better for them than they knew for themselves. And we've got to get off the horse. We have to be able to look at our partner and say, okay, you and I don't like exactly the same things. Am I okay with that? Or do I want you to have the same cakes with me and I want you to do exactly as I do? Is that what I want? Do I really want to be with someone exactly as me? What would that look like? It's a great question to ask. It is a great question to ask because when I asked that question a few years ago, I thought, my gosh, I don't know if I could be with me in a relationship. I was quick to anger. I was very quick to getting defensive, pushing people away, shutting down. Was not the kind of person I wanted to be with. We've heard a lot of people say, become the person you want to be with. So in order to do that, you've got to be able to look at yourself and make an agreement. These are things I love about myself. These are things that I'd like to work on with myself. These are the things I'd like to improve on. And this is who I'd like to become. And start working on you and focus less on them. So even though I am, healed enough to know, I still, let me hold on. Let me pause for just a second. Even though I've done a lot of healing on my attachment style, I am still attracted to the independence, the gentleness, the discipline of those who's got an avoidant attachment style. What I had to learn was that while I may be comfortable with togetherness and being vulnerable, they are not. It may feel like their skin is trying to tear off itself from their bodies when they need to be vulnerable, when they need to come closer in a relationship, when they need to share about their feelings. And if I'm going to have long, heavy conversations about my feelings, what I have learned is that while I don't get exhausted talking about those things, like I could talk about feelings and listen to people talk about their feelings, it might be too much for them. So I've learned to state how I feel, even if I'm not happy with something in a relationship. I will state how I feel and then I move on. And this allows the other person to process what I said and change behaviors if they need to. Sometimes they don't need to. Sometimes it's just a matter of me saying that, okay, this is something that happened and I'm not okay with it, or I'm not happy with it. And it allows the other person to know where they stand with me, because what we all know is that we feel tension, we feel energies. We will know when someone is a little off, and we wonder, and that in that wondering, we can get really scared. So it's okay to let your partner know that, yeah, I am upset. I am hurt. This is what I'm hurt about. It is okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about understanding triggers. You see, I was a type who wanted to fix the problem as soon as it happened. And then I wanted to check in after to make sure that we were still good. Without realizing, which was my lack of awareness, I would bring up the topic over and over and over again in the future. Why? Because I wanted certainty. I wanted to know that we were okay and we were back on track. Now I know that when someone is triggered, I need to back off. I need to let them breathe so that they could think about what happened and how they could take responsibility and change if they need to. Now, notice I'm saying if they need to, because I'm not making them, I'm not telling them that they have to. This is something they have to realize on their own. My healing did not happen with a therapist. Now I have a therapist. Now I meet with a therapist twice a week. But most of my healing did not happen with a therapist. I started on this journey at the age of 27, consciously on this journey at 27. I'm now 45. I've had a therapist for about 5 years. We've done incredible work together, but when I started on this journey, I did it on my own. And it comes, a lot of my healing happened through awareness, taking responsibility. And how it really started was at 27, something was going on. And I said, I can't spend the rest of my life like this. What I really meant was, I am responsible for how I feel. I'm the one that's creating the environment I'm in. I'm allowing myself to be here. And I said to myself, I don't want to have a victim mindset. I don't like being controlled. I don't like the idea of someone having that sort of control on my emotions. And so I have struggled with it and fight against it for years. Now I don't allow anyone to affect how I feel. I'm not saying that it doesn't affect me at all, but it does not linger. If someone says something mean, yes, it's going to sting for a second or two. And then I quickly can get into my head and say, that's not my problem to solve. That might be a projection. But then there are also times when let's say, for example, there was a really good friend of mine years ago. She sat me down and she said, I think you choose partners so that you could feel a little bit more powerful than they are. Now, don't get me wrong. People in my past are very highly intelligent members of society. They contribute to society. They're good people. But there were certain things about me that she felt maybe on some unconscious, egocentric part of me that felt, okay, I will choose a particular partner because something about me would feel like I was the better partner in the relationship. Something like that, you've got to stop and pause and think about it. So it's not everything that is somebody who's projecting onto you, especially when it's a really good friend and you've grown to trust this person. You know that whatever they're saying is coming from a place of love and care. And when they bring up something that they've noticed about your personality, perhaps you want to pause and take stock. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, someone did say that I wasn't perfect in relationships. And it wasn't until that moment that I paused and said, yeah, you're right. I'm not perfect in relationships. I'm not a perfect human being. It's okay. It's all right, because being a human means we are going to be perfectly messy. And that's all right. It's all about the journey. Now I know that when someone is triggered, I need to back off. I don't need them to say, I'm sorry, or I don't need them to tell me how they plan to make things better. In the past, I wanted to hear all of those words. What I do now is I wait and I look for changes. So I understand that people are triggered and that's going to make them feel different ways. I don't take it personally. But what I do is I wait and I look for changes. And because I know my worth now, because I've learned to love myself, I'm really not afraid of anyone leaving my life. Yes, I can admit it's probably going to hurt. It's probably going to hurt a lot or a little. I don't know until that time comes. I know I will miss people from time to time, should they choose to leave, or should I choose that it would be best for me to walk away from that relationship. But I'm not afraid of it anymore. What I'm most afraid of is losing who I am so that someone else can be happy. And so you really do want to work on your healing so you could get to that point. Now, there was another thing, needing validation. I needed back then to hear my partner say, I love you. And I needed to hear that they thought I was special and the best thing that ever happened to them. I was quietly competing with people from their past without even realizing it. Because I thought that if they could say I love you 1,000 times a day, if they could message me and wish me a good morning and a good evening and ask me how my day was and all of it, it meant that they really cared about me. I needed that validation from them because I never stopped to look at my awesomeness. I did not stop to take account of how much care and consideration I put into this person who I choose to have in my life. I never stopped to validate myself. And why? Well, because I wasn't trying to validate myself. I was trying to get them to prove to me that they would stay when I was the one who was really abandoning myself. Now, it's nice when my partner says, I love you, or when he says, you're an amazing partner, or when he says, you look really beautiful, or when he calls me beautiful. But it's not necessary because I already know he loves me. I already know that I'm an amazing partner to him. I know these things. So in my mind, it is settled with me that I show up in the best way I can in this relationship. And of course, it would mean that he loves me. If he's laughing and he's happy when he's with me and he wants to see me, then obviously he loves me and he likes the time we spend together. I don't need him to say it over and over and over. You see, a person can tell us they love us, but then show us something that's very confusing to what love really is. So, what I've learned to do is to validate myself, and you can do it too. Now, when it comes to conflict resolution, a lot of times people say, okay, you set your boundaries and you could validate yourself, but how do you deal with conflict? What do you do when you're upset with your partner? Do you speak to them about it, not speak to them about it? Resolving issues doesn't take hours, weeks, or months anymore for me. They used to. Like I mentioned earlier, I now state how I feel and allow the other person to process and change their course of action if they think it's needed. Now it's up to them to change or not. It's up to me to look at their behavior and say, okay, you've changed. Great. Let's move forward. And I'm saying it to myself. Or I could say, all right, this behavior is continuing. Do I want to continue with this person in my life? I get to choose that bit. They get to choose if they're going to change or not. Sharing how I feel is just that. How I feel about the thing that happened and not about what they did or didn't do. What they did is none of my business, like I said. What I feel about what was done is what matters because I need to protect myself from that thing ever happening again. I am responsible for me and how I feel. I'm going to repeat that. I am responsible for me and how I feel at any given time. But by telling them how I feel, I'm also saying that I'm not okay with it. By saying I'm not okay with it, I'm also saying I won't tolerate it again. This is, let's call it a very subtle but powerful way of saying, you try that one more time and let's just see what happens. And I'm not someone to predict how I'm going to behave in the future because I really don't know. I'm a human being. I can tell you how I would want to behave in the future, but I don't know what's going to happen with my reptilian brain when it starts feeling threatened. Is it going to freeze? Is it going to fawn? Is it going to fight? Or is it going to run away, which is flight? I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you in this clear mind right now that I would probably want to sit and have a calm, compassionate, thoughtful conversation. But let's just see. Let's wait and see. And that's another thing that I quite enjoy now in my life. When trials and tribulations hit, I really can't wait to see who I become, how much I learn from the experience and who I become after. And that is not to say that during the time it's not difficult. It is difficult, but I'm always excited to see who I'm going to become at the end of it all. Now, what's been incredibly important for my healing and what's really, really helped my relationship, it's actually taken all of the pressure off of the relationship, is shifting focus. What I had to do was ask myself, all right, you meet someone, you fall in love with them, they have these little things about them that you notice, and those are the little things that you started to fall in love with. Why do you start to change them? Is it because they start to act in a way that you don't really want to try and understand or empathize with, and so you just want to control it and get back to the way things were before, instead of allowing the person to evolve and show you all of who they are? You like what you see in the very beginning, and we know that people show their absolute best, right, at the beginning of meeting, but then they start to get comfortable, they start to relax. And with an anxious attachment style, we start to get really upset. We're unsure. We're scared. Makes all the sense in the world. We want to have certainty, right? With certainty, we believe that we could predict the future and we could keep ourselves safe. But that's not true. A lot of people on my social media page, the ones coming to me, it's because they were told something at the beginning of the relationship and things changed. They made vows at an altar in front of a religious priest, minister. They made vows 20, 30 years after. They're now upset that the person's no longer the same person they were when they made those vows. And it's painful. It's a painful experience. However, relationships evolve, people evolve. And it's best to be open to that fact and protect yourself so that should a little disruption happen, you're ready to face it. You're ready to embrace it. You're ready to respect it. So what has helped me and my relationship was when I shifted focus. I trust my partner to be the person I fell in love with. I trust that he's going to evolve. I hope he continues to evolve. The plan is, the hope is, the dream is that we will continue to respect each other where we're at. But what I do is I allow the relationship to just evolve as it needs to. I don't put, restrictions on it. I don't try to control anything anymore. My relationship, my partner, they're the fun parts of my life. It's just as being with my friends, my children, my work. It's all fun. If it feels uncomfortable, I can't be a part of it. If my work starts to feel uncomfortable, if a client starts to be disrespectful in any way, it's a relationship that will have to end regardless of the benefits of it. When something starts to feel uncomfortable and we love and respect ourselves, we will choose us above everything else. So the relationship's fun, partner's fun, the kids are fun, friends are fun, work's fun. That's how life should be. We work through the issues and we move on. We shift our focus. You see, in the past, I wanted to control everything because I believed that only then I would feel safe and secure about the outcome. I thought that if I knew what to expect, I could prepare myself for it. Now, I know I can't control anything, but my own feelings and my growth, I am responsible for how I feel. So the focus must be on that. How do I manage my response and my reactions to these feelings? How do I manage my response and my reactions to the things that are external that triggers me internally? So what I do is I allow people to show me who they are. And then I decide if they deserve a place in my life. I choose. I am constantly choosing what is for me and what is not for me. That takes off the pressure from the relationship or my partner because he knows I can take care of myself and he knows that he wouldn't have to deal with passive aggressiveness because if I'm upset about something, I will talk about it and I move on. The tension's gone. It doesn't stay with us for days and weeks and months. And if I can choose, you can choose too. You get to choose yourself. You get to live your life on this planet for as long as you can stay here and have a fun experience with the people you love. But you have to decide for it, not your partner. No one else can do that for you. Let me know if this resonated with you. Meet me again on Decoding Attachment Style for another episode. Until next time.